Good morning, and thank you for joining us today for our INOVX Industry webinar. I'm Susanna Hyde, and I'm a Regional Account Director in the Americas. Today, we will be discussing our game-changing INOVX technology and impact on several manufacturing areas like reliability, maintenance, inspection, operations, and management of change. We will be structuring our webinar as follows. We're going to have an overview by our President, Dave Reinhardt. We're also going to have a user story by CHS, and we thank you for their support. Then we're going to have a technical demonstration, and then a wrap-up and a Q&A session. We will also have a couple of polling sessions, and we appreciate your participation as well. Also, we ask our audience to please submit your questions via the GoToMeeting tool labeled Questions on your right-hand side. Our Professional Services Director, Orming Sedano, will collect them and answer at the end of the session. So without further ado, we will get started with our program this morning with Dave Reinhardt, our President, with a company and solution overview. Dave?
Yes, thank you, Susanna. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. My name is David Reinhardt, President and co-founder of INOVX Solutions. And again, we thank you for your time today. We have approximately 1 hour, and we'll start with a little bit of an overview of INOVX Solutions and our technology before we get into the user story. INOVX has been around for about 17 years. We started in 1999. We're privately held, based in Irvine, California. We have offices in Texas, California. We have centers in the Middle East and in China as well. We have very proven technology. Again, we've been around for about 17 years, and we have many satisfied companies around the world in various process industries, including upstream, downstream, chemicals, pharmaceutical, across the board. And so we recognize that not everybody's really kind of heard of what we're doing around 3D asset integrity management, so we appreciate you looking into what we have today. What 3D asset integrity management is we have a product called V-Suite, formerly known as Reality Links, and this is a platform that makes available to you in your enterprise, in the 24/7 environment, the most reliable active 3D representation of your facility by bringing together this active 3D model and your systems of record or big data. And so we have an interoperable system that allows you to really achieve what we call asset certainty. And again, we integrate with your existing system of record. We've got specialized tools to either develop or convert 3D models, which we'll talk about, to very cost effectively enhance the way operations and maintenance activities are being performed in all sorts of process industries. And this is all made available to you through V-Suite or Reality Links, through your PC-based equipment or tablet, or even your mobile device, such as a cell phone, or if you're a tablet, you can even go offline. We'll get into that in a little bit. So today, we see in most operations and maintenance activities, we tend to have silo-based information. We have a lot of islands of information. Many types of documents are paper-based, or certainly disconnected from other enterprise information. You know, traditional inspection drawings tend to be drafted in some sort of CAD program. We see them even manual in many cases. Things like isolation procedures or shutdown procedures also tend to be very tabular and unintuitive. And what INOVX is doing is taking sort of the old way of doing things and really turning it on its ear by integrating that active 3D model with your current systems of record to replace your isolation procedure with something much more intuitive that provides context, that provides much better insight into what's happening and what needs to be done for that work. We're getting comments from companies like Shell saying that an hour inside of the INOVX technology is like spending 8 hours in the field. What we're doing is really bringing the field to the desktop. We're bringing it to the tablet, allowing for users across your enterprise to come together in a virtual way and solve problems rapidly with good, consistent information. This extends beyond just inspection and maintenance. We go into areas of engineering, compliance. When we talk about things like inspection, of course, that really speaks to reliability. You know, optimizing the way your resources are focused. We'll get into some of these specific examples in a little bit, but what we've really seen with our platform is that because we're implementing this active model tied to your existing systems of record, that the layers of additional solutions become natural. We've got a single hub of very virtual or very intuitive look into the facility, and maybe if you start off with an inspection solution, we'll hear from one of our guest speakers, it can very quickly grow into other things to help the enterprise with other activities at the facility. And so again, we'll get into some specific examples here in a little bit, but it's really no wonder that companies like Gartner are saying by 2020, 40% of these assets will be monitored and managed in some way with virtual 3D models. And we believe INOVX is at the forefront of that as a thought leader, and we'll show you some examples. You know, because we're integrating with existing systems, the kinds of things that we're able to do is visualize your facility in ways that you couldn't previously. For example, here we're looking at the consequence and probability of failure of certain systems. Now, this might be available in one of your databases, but because we're integrating this active model to your existing systems of record, we're able to project that onto the model. And so with a very simple query, I'm able to see, you know, all of the high probability and failure items highlighted in red, where things I have less concern over, consequence or probability, is green. And these are the kind of things that we're doing for things like corrosion or things like safety zones, and very quickly visualizing your plant and your assets in ways to help decisions be made and actions going forward. You know, one of the other examples that we really talk a lot about, and you'll hear more about this today, is around inspection, mechanical integrity. This is an example from NCRA or CHS, and we'll be hearing from them in just a moment, where they've really taken their entire mechanical integrity system and used this active model to replace or augment what they were doing previously. And so this little control valve manifold here is a representation or a replacement of that inspection drawing. So this is the way that INOVX manages that drawing, if you will, in something we call a knowledge view. And again, we'll show you some live examples in a moment. And each of these points represent either an inspection node or something that needs to be done, say a dead leg example. And the color coding also fits with some information that's tied to that system of record. I think we're going to go into a little more of what this means when we introduce our guest speakers, and I think that's probably a good segue to introduce that. Today we're going to hear from CHS, and so Susanna, would you mind making the introductions, please?
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So you're going to have CHS. The McPherson refinery is an 85,000 barrel a day refinery with most of its crude oil that refines from local Kansas producers. The refinery is currently undergoing expansion to 100,000 barrel a day, and its primary products are gasoline and diesel. Our panelist, Jason Frazier, is a plant engineer, and he's worked at the refinery since 2009, supporting the fixed equipment and the mechanical integrity program, including plant-wide piping inspections and RBI initiatives. He's also responsible for developing the plant-wide 3D virtual model, including all of the process units, or 27 different units. He's a graduate of Kansas State University with a BS in mechanical engineering, and he's also a certified APA inspector. Randy Lanhart is the plant supervisor, engineering supervisor, and he's been at the refinery since 2010. He's managing the fixed equipment and mechanical integrity program, including the plant-wide piping inspection and RBI initiatives. He's also a graduate of the University of Nebraska with a BS in civil engineering, and he's a registered professional engineer and certified API inspector. So with that, we're very excited to introduce Jason and Randy, along with Dave Reinhardt, facilitating the discussion. Dave, Randy, Jason?
Thanks, Susanna. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, thank you, both Randy and Jason, for joining us this morning. What I'd like to do, yeah, great. If you guys wouldn't mind, can you take us back a few years and talk about the kinds of challenges you were faced with at your facility? I think your examples are not uncommon based on our experience out there in the world, and give us a little bit of a sense of the kind of challenges you were faced with, and some of the decisions that you made back then.
Yeah, so our inspection program, this is Jason, by the way. Our inspection program was really our driver for wanting to develop the virtual 3D model in the first place. And going back about 8-9 years ago, we really did have these isolated, silos of inspection information that we needed to improve on. And through the development of a new risk-based inspection program for our piping inspection program, there was a need that arose to develop new inspection isometric drawings, and that was because of the fact that we restructured our inspection circuits through that program. So rather than sending draftsmen out in the field to sketch everything up, we made the decision to continue with what we had already started with a pilot project with reality links. We went ahead and continued on with another process unit and we were able to develop a as-built virtual model through the INOVX process there. And we then took those 3D models and developed realistic views that the inspectors were able to take out into the field and get a realistic representation of what they were inspecting. And we made improvements over the years, but we continued on through unit by unit throughout the plant, the covered units that we needed to inspect for API, and that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, Jason, that's great. You mentioned a pilot project, and then you mentioned also that you were, over the course of time, you began to add to your inspection program with the active 3D model. So at what point did you go when you went from pilot to deploying this full solution? I suppose you probably had, sort of the old way and the new way of working, and how did you manage that internally?
You want me? This is Randy, and I appreciate the opportunity. When I came here in 2010, Dave, I was responsible or assigned to manage this redo of the piping inspection on a plant-wide basis. So I was the one who we put together initially a field crew, and as Jason mentioned and you mentioned previously, we were sending API 570 inspectors out in the field to draft or to sketch up the new piping circuits. The reason we were doing it at that point was we simply hadn't scanned some of the units we were working on. We were working not on a unit basis, but on a risk basis. So we're going throughout the plant trying to get the high criticality circuits. So that early in the game, we didn't have the 3D model available plant-wide. But it's when we finished that initial phase, we did complete the higher criticality circuits, and we said from henceforth we want to go on a unit basis for efficiency, and we decided to go ahead and follow the model generation unit by unit. So that set up the sequencing, and we made the our mission to say that we want to pay our inspectors, which are fairly high-priced individuals, we want to pay them to inspect. We would rather have a modeler draftsman type in the office to generate the drawings and give that to the inspector as a working document to use, and not have to have the inspector generate his own document for inspection. So that was the driving force and the underwriting philosophy behind following generating our inspection drawings off the 3D model.
Well, Randy, that's good insight. So one of the bullets here under, improving the legacy system limitations under challenges, it sounds like this time-consuming data gathering was really, you've got these, very high-skilled API inspectors out there, really walking the lines. And it sounds like you took more of a systematic approach and said, let's get, the drafter modeler types setting things up and really feeding these guys with these advanced work packages. Is that a fair statement?
That is. I was also the guy signing the timesheets and the invoices, and figured out that we need to do something long-term to make our personnel more effective in their classifications, and that's exactly what generating the ISOs off the model did for us.
Another long-term consideration of that was looking at the fact that normally when an MOC occurs, a change occurs in the plant, the inspection department isn't always necessarily updated in the traditional format. So, with the 2D drawings that we had before, they didn't always get updated until, you're out there in the plant and you realize something's different, and then they're scrambling to sketch something up. So with the new approach, with the model, we were able to, look at the fact that we're going to manage change and update the model as we go, and automatically update our inspection information along the way.
So Jason, I'm kind of looking over here on your challenges side, and I think we'll talk about it when we get to results. But so part of that, it sounds like when you say you had data integration and correlation, this really extends beyond just P&IDs. As changes were taking place inside the plant, it sounds like what you're saying is inspection didn't always know about it until you went out to inspect something, and then lo and behold, a change was made. Is that right?
That's right, and as I said before, we needed to develop new inspection drawings. However, whether we did or not, we knew that some of them were older and outdated anyway. So whether we were changing our inspection circuits or not, we knew there was a need for developing isometric drawings.
Right. So when we start moving over to solution, and we've talked a little bit about this already, you've deployed the INOVX technology for your virtual plant model. Randy mentioned that you've implemented basically, or you've enhanced your mechanical integrity program. I think you guys are using PCMS. Is that right?
Yes. Okay.
And then so with that, one of the things that you mentioned was this the P&ID updates and the 3D model. Can you talk a little bit about that? You mentioned you're updating the 3D model, but I see here your P&ID versus inspection drawing. What exactly did you mean by that?
I can expound on that a little bit, Dave. This isn't my first refinery. I've initiated a plant-wide piping inspection revamp, and to the setback of some facilities, you can actually totally manage your inspection program, particularly your piping inspection program, totally separate from your P&IDs. Once you make those drawings, you're not forced to go back and compare your drawings and what you're inspecting in the field to the current P&IDs. in using reality links to generate your inspection isometrics, you marry those two. And this is very important to me, dear to my heart, because I was a PSM manager at my last facility. And P&IDs are, as we all know, we struggle to maintain them and keep them current. Because the 3D model is intelligized directly off the P&ID, the model originates, the P&ID is the source document for the model. And when our inspectors find something in the field that doesn't match the drawing, we know that it doesn't match the P&IDs, so we're forced to correct that. And that's a huge plus here, because like I say, you can run both those programs, P&IDs and inspection drawings could be islands of information that never talk. And the beauty about this system is it merges them, and we're far more cognizant of P&ID issues that need addressed, and we pick them up as part of our piping inspection program. I literally, at my last facility, I had to hire people to come in and just walk down P&IDs, totally separate from the inspection program, and we are continuously doing that every time we inspect a piping circuit.
Wow. So in addition to your mechanical integrity and a risk-based deployment, you know, you're already bleeding into other areas that might be considered engineering or you know, like you said, other islands of information starting to come together. Right.
Yeah, a big bang for your process safety program.
That's great. So Randy, when you finally sort of, you know, I guess it's a continuing process, of course, but in the end, when you have this thing all rolled out, you know, what are some of the statistics you can give us? You know, did you have, you know, how many units, how many, you know, maybe total drawings or circuits? Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, we went through and developed an as-built model for 27 different process units. I think the only things we left out were, you know, some utilities. So quite a few areas there. We were able to, we looked at labor savings of, you know, close to $2 million there when it came to comparing, developing our isometric drawings using the model. So.
And Jason, it says here you've got about 19,000 total drawings created with the CMLs. This is corrosion monitoring location, right?
That's right. That's about 19,000 different isometric drawing sheets. So, you know, those are grouped into circuits. So one piping system might be made up of 5 or 15 sheets. It's hard to say, you know, depending on the size of it. But total sheets were total of about 19,000.
Okay.
And those,
great.
If I may add, Dave, the CMLs on those reality views, they're evergreen. They update. We data log our thickness readings in the field. Once the technician goes in and downloads his UT meter, those are updated in PCMS, and then they're refreshed in the model or in those reality views that show the inspection view. So we don't have to build hyperlinks for each inspection. For each AutoCAD, if we had AutoCAD, we'd have to hyperlink it to PCMS. This is more of a global approach to keep your CMLs evergreen.
Right.
Right. So with your system of record for your RBI mechanical integrity, you're using PCMS, and so what you've done is we have actually an integration, a direct connect to that system. So when PCMS is updated and you run a query inside of your knowledge view, you're actually getting that live, up-to-date information. That's what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Great. Okay, good. Well, listen, I think we've touched on some of it already, but on the results side, you know, one of the things we've definitely tackled, it sounds like, is a good mechanical integrity program. You know, you also mentioned that there were some other things that you've sort of learned over the years that you've been able to deploy. You know, can you give us some examples of those? I want to be sensitive to time. We've got a few more minutes here. Are there any other key items that you've been able to extract value now that you have this 3D platform?
I wanted to touch on the dead leg evaluation right off, just because you had mentioned before with that slide on the from one of our inspection drawings that had the color coding on it. As part of the inspection drawings setup, we actually isolate the components in the model into their respective inspection circuits, and by doing that, we're able to display with different color schemes different characteristics of those circuits, such as in your example, the dead leg portion in that around that the control loop bypass is shown orange. So we show all of our dead leg sections of piping as orange. So we were able to, basically it became an summer intern project where they were able to go through all our inspection isometric drawings and quickly identify the dead leg portions by color, and they were able to set up meetings with the appropriate personnel to discuss whether or not there was a hazard involved, some sort of risk involved with that particular dead leg. And we had many MOCs generated through that process in order to make improvements in the plant to, you know, prevent freeze-up potentials and other damage mechanisms that we could prevent there. So that was a tool that was already implemented through the inspection program that we were able to utilize, you know, and get a lot of bang for our buck there.
And Dave, I'd like to touch on the fireproofing if I have time.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fireproofing inspection is where the model really is absolutely essential. And you can imagine how widespread this is if we're looking at fireproofing going down to individual column and beam level across the entire facility. It'd be very similar to a coating inspection challenge. Of course, we're in the middle of Kansas, relatively dry. We don't have a lot of coating failure issues. But the fireproofing inspection was dependent on the model. We happened to use a third party who would take the Reality Links model and use it for their system. But without having a model, if you think it's difficult to draw up piping circuits, how difficult is it to catch up on 40 or 60 years of pipe rack modifications and structural modifications in the plant? And the model, because it's laser scanned, already has those in. We know which members are fireproofed, and then it's an easy matter to go through and label them. Through these thousands and thousands of inspections, we can use the model to find not only the inspector can label it, but also the field contractor can search down and find it. And if they do the same thing as you did earlier, Dave, with risk ranking, we can turn on the the areas of the plant that need the most repair and give the contractor an idea of what extent of work he has in this area. As well as we could turn on the medium risk in the same vicinity and say, while we're there, we might as well repair all of it. So it's been absolutely essential due to the complexity of the challenge of inspecting on a plant-wide basis.
Randy, that's great. And you know, I remember we talked before about, you know, even your relief valve sizing and some other activities around your bolting QC. It sounds like again and again you're going back to your 3D asset model and leveraging it in a nice quiet office instead of having to put your hard hat on and go out into the field. Is that fair?
That's fair. You're only limited on uses by your application to the challenges we face, and they continue to expand.
Yeah, I was going to say we don't have time today to cover all the benefits we've realized over the years, just because there's so many different disciplines throughout the plant that have taken advantage of the model in different ways, and it's, you know, it's links to different programs that we use. And yeah, I don't think a week goes by that I don't get a call from some department asking for ideas. Hey, can we do this or can we do that? And yeah, we just continue to increase on our uses there. So.
Well, Jason, and Randy, I really appreciate that. I think it is fair to say that we probably could go a lot deeper. I know when we were speaking last week in preparation for today, lots of things that you guys are doing at CHS, and certainly we appreciate your time today. What we'd like to do is probably, thank you for your time this morning, and we're going to move forward. Again, for any of the attendees, if you have some specific questions on this, feel free in the question section to jot those down. We might be able to coerce Randy and Jason to answer even questions a little later, and then Orman will be following up on those throughout the session today. So, gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning. I'm going to move to the next section now. And,
okay. Good.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys. You're welcome to stay on the line, but we're going to, what we'd like to do at this point is now just poll the audience. We've got just a couple questions for those of you participating today. And so we've got a few questions, and we'll be asking those. And if you'll just take about 10 or 15 seconds, have a look at this. And so I'm going to, let me launch that first question here.
So does your organization have islands of data, silos of plant information across various groups within the enterprise? If the audience could please select an answer. Yes, no, not sure. And we will go ahead and display in about 2 seconds. Let's give them a couple of seconds again.
We really do appreciate your input here today. For those of you participating, I think we've got most everybody answering. We're going to close the poll here.
Yeah, let's close the poll and display the results. So 65% said yes, 0% no, and then the rest not sure. Okay, good, thank you. Let's go to the next question. And the next question is, does your company integrate different enterprise systems of records to enhance efficiency and reliability of operations and maintenance? And the options are yes, no, not sure. So let's give the audience a good 5 seconds to respond. And one more second, and here are the displays. 24% yes, 29% no, and the rest is not sure or not applicable. Thank you very much for your participation. And then we have a third one. And if you could cost-effectively deploy an interoperable three-dimensional platform to achieve higher certainty about all plant assets, would that be of interest to you? And the options are yes, no, not sure, or not applicable.
We got some really quick responses on this one, so we'll close it. Looks like everybody's chimed in.
Wow, 91% said yes. That's good, and 4% no, and then 4% not sure. Thank you very much for your feedback. And with that, we're now moving to our next session, which is
So we'll get into the live demo. I did want to just touch a little bit on some of the benefits that we heard about from CHS and others. What we're really seeing across the board is reductions in cost and schedule for all kinds of activities, everything from inspection and maintenance to turnaround planning. We're seeing increased reliability in work productivity, improved communications. We heard both Randy and Jason say, they're getting much better communication interdepartmentally, leveraging a platform that is integrating with their existing systems of record. And something that we'll talk about in a little bit is an onboard unique management of change tool that INOVX deploys that allows end users like CHS to maintain and sustain that model in an operating environment. So the big difference between what's happening at the plants versus when we're creating models is, they're needing to use it in a 24/7 environment for all the kind of things we talked about. And we'll give you a little example about that. So we're seeing a lot of benefits across the board. ARC says that, our 3D asset virtualization improves margins and profitability in downstream plants. We're actually seeing that upstream also in different markets. So having said that, we'd like to go to a technical demonstration. V-Suite is actually has several components. As I described previously, it has a client-server application piece. It has a web-enabled component, and we even have a tablet or a mobile component that we can take offline and actually bring these advanced work packages into the plant. And so as part of this demonstration, the first thing I'd like to do is review the desktop application. This is what we refer to as V-Suite Core. And this is really our authoring tool or how we create the content. And so when CHS was speaking to us, they're primarily using the desktop application. So we'll go into a little bit of how that's being used, not just there, but in other sites around the world. So what we're seeing here today is this is the user interface. And on the left side, we have a database browser. This is my sample project. I've set something up for inspection in this case. But again, this could be for things like plant maintenance or construction scheduling. Today, we're just reviewing mainly inspection, but hopefully you can draw some lines to some of these other solutions. So the first thing you'll notice is that I have a hierarchy here, sort of a folder structure that's not unlike my Windows Explorer. I've got a tree, and if I drill down in here, I can see different kinds of assets. And by checking the box, I actually can display these assets in my view. And so in this case, I've turned on. Let me just turn on all the piping. And so this is the piping in my model, my sample model here. If I want to turn on the rest of the model, I can just check that box. V-Suite Core it's a desktop application. It doesn't really require a heavy-duty computer. I've got probably a 3 or 4-year-old laptop here I'm running off of today. And so you'll see I can sort of quickly turn on and off different sections of the model. I can drill down and navigate and see sort of how things are organized. Now these models are created, I think we talked, you could hear it in the earlier discussion, either from laser scanning or what we call model conversion. So we have some really good modeling tools in the software that allows us to build from scan data. INOVX is also a partner with Edgewise 3D, and so we can leverage automation. We also have some good assisted modeling tools. If you have a 3D model that's already been created for your engineering, we can actually update this from different CAD sources. And so we have lots of ways of creating these models to get something deployed quickly and also accurately. And so we can go into much more detail in that, but given the time today, let's dive into some of the solutions. So the first thing you'll notice is that I've got this model organized by my sort of engineering discipline, if you will. I've got these different hierarchies, and it's really sort of organized by the engineering discipline. And so one of the things that INOVX does is we have a role-based application, and this is allowing users to log in with different roles or different responsibilities and also have different entitlements in terms of what you can do. And so I'm logged in as an administrator right now, and I can see the 2 different workspaces. But if I was an inspector, maybe just an inspector that was going out to either perform inspection or create work packages, I would only see the inspection workspace. Now what's interesting about this is exactly the same model. It's just organized differently, and I'm just seeing them both here in the same view. So if I clear my screen, let me turn on the inspection workspace, and you'll see it's exactly the same model. Maybe there's some different color coding, and maybe things are organized differently. And so in this case, I've got my corrosion loops or my inspection circuits. It looks like I've got all my inspection points turned on. Let me just turn those off. And so now I'm seeing the model very much how I'm used to seeing it in my system of record, like PCMS that CHS was using. We also integrate in with other systems like Meridian and others. And so this model now is organized just how I would expect to see it in my the way I manage my work. And so for this one, again, we're looking at inspection. So with V-Suite Core, we have this extensibility and this interoperation that allows me to integrate with these different systems. And so I'm going to go ahead and log on to my inspection program. And what you're seeing now is that V-Suite is actually connecting to the target system. And what I've got is a system of record. In this case, we are using PCMS. And so what it did is it logged in. I've got the application loaded locally for this demo, and so it fired the application, and it's running in the background. We can also configure that to just connect and not necessarily run the application. So you don't even have to have the app loaded, but it will connect. And so now I actually, not only do I have access to my different circuits and loops and various attributes, but I've got information about those assets that's being pulled directly from my system of record. So in the interest of time, I'd like to jump ahead and show you some of the things we're doing with that. And so one of the things that our inspection group might use is using the searches or some of the advanced tools. And so one of the things I might do as an inspector is say, well, you know, I'm really interested in understanding what I have to do in the next 30 days. And so what I can do inside of V-Suite Core is I can say, you know, hey, go ahead and find that information for me. And so what it's doing when I run this search is actually reaching into the system of record and saying, well, look, in the next 30 days, I've got these 61 points that I need to go and inspect. And so, albeit this is interesting, it still doesn't really necessarily tell me where it is and what it is and how I'm supposed to work with it. So as part of our inspection solution, what we can do is configure this to actually automate the creation of those drawings that Jason was mentioning. So he's calling them inspection ISOs, really, but what they are what we call knowledge views. And we can create this inspection work package on the fly. And through a wizard, we're actually going through and using that search definition, and we're getting these 61 assets, and we're telling the software, you know, I want to go ahead and create these views, and I want to understand where it is and what it is, and go ahead and create the knowledge views. Now, if I was to launch this, it would probably take about 5 or 6 minutes, so I'm going to cancel this now. But what I'll show you is sort of what the results would be. And we have this thing called a knowledge book, because the model organization is interesting, but in fact, what we're finding is that really to create these work packages, our knowledge book is where the power really lies. And so the results from that query that I just ran was an automated creation of these knowledge views, or active isometrics, as we like to call them. This is an active 3D model, and it creates that work package that says, okay, not only are these the points that you have to inspect, but these are the adjacent equipment and adjacent structure, and it's not just a 2D static image, but it's actually a 3D model. And so as I zoom in, I can get some context about this. I can take measurements, I can click on these assets. If I select any one of these points and pull up the inspection properties, it actually goes directly into my system of record and retrieves that information and actually takes me right to that field in that record. And so this is actually the information about that item. And so I've got this interoperability between my systems. As Jason described, you know, we can color code based on these results, and that's what we're doing in many cases. So, you know, we have another one of our end users that's actually taking this data now, and through filtering, we're actually displaying the model with sort of a, you know, red for failure and green for good, and then all the colors in the middle for how corrosion and damage is being tracked. And so this is a very robust system to allow me to organize the model, set up my advanced work packages, and create these knowledge books that I can then distribute out to the rest of my user community. And so this is just a quick look at the desktop application. So let me bring you now into the web tool. Once we have accessed and created our different work packs, what we can do is we can actually launch V-Suite online, and let me go ahead and do that. And so by setting up your entitlements and by setting up your different user communities, I can actually go out to my server, whether it's on my intranet or maybe it's up on something like Amazon and hosted, and I can sign into V-Suite, and I can access those same knowledge views from anywhere within my enterprise. Now, where this adds power, of course, is through a web-based architecture. I can now launch this and make it available to my entire user community, to my contractors, my subject matter experts that might be not available in my local office, bringing people together from around the world. And these knowledge views now are available to me in my online space. I've got the same sort of interaction that I did in my client-server desktop application, and I also have access to the asset information. So by just clicking on these assets, I get a little quick tip here. I can navigate up in the hierarchy and maybe select this entire circuit, and I can get more information about that. The same is true with when I have access to the system of record. So for example, now I've highlighted the entire circuit. I can get more information about that. You know, here's some circuit information. It's actually going live now out to, in this case, PCMS, and extracting that data and getting what I need for my work pack. You'll see when we talk about the mobility in the tablet, this same information is available in an offline mode, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And so what I like about this too is now when I've got my mobile and my tablet, we also have the ability to create new content. We have ability to capture more information. And so one of the things that we'll do as part of these advanced work packages is we'll set up the ability for end users to capture notes, capture information, or if it's part of a work package, we might actually include information about what needs to be collected. So for example, if I'm going out there to inspect these points, one of the things I might need is information, say the last reading that was captured, or maybe if it's a lockout tagout procedure, it might be the sequence of events of things that have to happen, and this could be a template that drives this work pack and what's available to you. And so as an inspector, or maybe it's a maintenance person, if I finish the task, I can simply go here and edit this activity, and maybe this one is 0. Let's say 300, something like that. Save my results, and when I'm online, this immediately is available to my other V-Suite end users in the tablet. If I'm in offline mode, that information is still captured, and then once I have access to my network again, it's immediately pushed back up to the V-Suite database. Now, what's really, I think, even more powerful about this is that I have the ability to also, through our adapters, is push this information into the systems of record, depending on how your IT is configured. Okay, so there's certainly a lot to talk about here, and we'd love a chance to show you a little more about this. But given time, I'd like to go ahead and jump forward to some of the mobility stuff. I can't show you a tablet on the screen here, so let me go ahead and just fire up a video, and I'll bring this over. And so what we have today is the ability to load the V-Suite Knowledgebook for your tablet and mobile device. Today, this is an Android system. Early next year, you'll be able to use the iOS. And so what we're doing here is in real time, we're showing how you can log in. And if I have certain knowledge views I'm looking for, I can begin to query that, and I get a lookup list based on what I've begun to type. I can search for that, get a list of my different knowledge views. Maybe this is my work package. And again, all of this can be done in an online mode or offline. And again, this is really powerful because now I can take that tablet into the field, and all of that data has been downloaded for me. And so not just the graphical representation of that inspection loop or of that shutdown or turnaround plan, but the metadata behind it. So if I have inspection information from my system of record, or if I have something out of Maximo for my maintenance record, all this is made available directly on my tablet offline as I synchronize. And you'll see I'm able to sort of pan and zoom. I can look in, I can click things and query, and then move around inside this view so I can really have context. Again, bringing the active 3D model to my desktop and to the field. So that's just a quick look at V-Suite. We've got the client desktop application, you've got the web, you've got the tablet. Something else I wanted to introduce today is a little bit about what we call management of change, and for the 3D model is our MMOC. There's certainly a lot to talk about here too, but one of the things that is definitely unique about our system is that V-Suite was designed for the end user at the facility. And so in order to really facilitate the use of active models inside the plant, we have to have a way of enabling end users to leverage the model in a 24/7 environment while making changes and updates. And the way we facilitate that is, again, it's a multi-user application. And so we can create these activities or these work orders, and these work in progress views of that active database, changes can be made all while in the production view, the end users can continue to move on and work and do the kinds of things that Randy and Jason were talking about. And so this work in progress view, we can set up different permissions, different tasks, activities, authorizations, auditing and journaling, and all of this allows for this maintenance, this maintain and sustain in an active production environment without ever republishing. One of the things I heard Randy say was when they were using the 2D systems, they basically had to update and overwrite some of those linkages they were creating. But once we move to V-Suite and we have this active model through these different, through our activity center and the task manager, we're able to update this thing, your 3D asset, without ever going offline, without breaking linkages, and maintaining that interoperability. So now that the changes have been authorized and published, I can go back to my active production model, and if I find that line that we were using as an example, we have change history. We have an understanding of what the changes were made, who made it, and we have the ability to see how things were done and even roll back if we need to. So that's a little bit of a look at V-Suite. I think given where we are in the timeline here, I'd like to just take a few minutes and get some of your feedback, and then we'll do some Q&A.
Okay, thank you, Dave. That was great. So now we're going to have a couple of questions requesting feedback from the audience, and we appreciate your response. And if you could please select one of the options. Attending feedback about the webinar would like to request the following: specific user success, examples like CHS, a live software demonstration, or was this demo helpful? So we're going to give you a second or a couple of seconds here to answer, and then we'll close the poll.
Couple more seconds.
Yeah. Very good. So let's go ahead and close the session, the polling session, and then the next question, please. And would you like to obtain more information about our 3D asset integrity management? The options obviously are yes. I'd like some specific follow-up questions, so like a V-Suite demo, and no additional information is needed. So we'll give you 1 or 2 seconds to respond. Appreciate it.
And we do have about 5 more minutes left in our webinar here, and so we would encourage you also in the go to webinar interface. If you have any specific questions, we're going to be turning this over to our professional services manager, Orman, and we're going to try to answer a couple of those questions today. And if we don't get to yours specifically, Susanna will be following up with you in coming days and making much of this webinar available to you through video.
And I wanted to also make everybody aware that we are recording this, so if our audience would like to have a link to the recording, we'd love to send you that information. So Orman, can we now turn this over to you for some Q&A?
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, everyone, and thanks for the questions. I just wanted to pick out a couple of the questions that are asked, and David, I mean, please feel free to chime in, obviously. The first question I'd like to take a look at is, what is the main difference between INOVX's V-Suite products and other software, asset management software systems such as SAP? I think, you know, we're really wanting to differentiate ourselves in a couple of ways here. One is that we interoperate with a lot of different systems, and the software is really designed to be interoperable with other systems of record. So even with an SAP asset management system, something like SAP PM, we actually have an adapter that integrates with that system. So we wouldn't be replacing your SAP asset management system. We would be working with it and presenting the information within it in this 3D model that we have. And on top of that, of course, is then you can interoperate with multiple systems so that your various disciplines can bring together information from your inspection system or from your asset management system and really get to the root of some of the issues that you're having within your plant.
Yeah, Orman, I really like that, and I think it's important. I really like your comment around, you know, what we do is we integrate with those systems of record, and we're definitely not replacing them. So there's so much power in things like SAP or PCMS and Maximo, the kind of things we've talked about today. And really what INOVX does is, as Orman said, is we have these adapters that connect to those and really offer the insight into, you know, where is this asset, you know, what is it connected to, what is its condition, and in a way that these other systems, because they're tabular or data driven, just aren't doing. And so we really think of ourselves as augmenting those, definitely not replacing. Good. Orman, I think we have another minute or two if you want to try to squeeze in another question or so.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple, actually. A little bit of a follow-on from that one is, you know, the advantages of our technology against other 3D models in the enterprise management area. And I think the key one there is really, you know, we touched a little bit on management of change, but obviously if you're trying to use a 3D model in an operating plant where things are changing, if not on a daily basis, then at least regularly, it's very important for that model to be kept up to date. And because we have this management of change capability, which allows us to do these updates offline while the operations and then the other end users are still accessing the model, I think it's fairly unique in the way that we can make sure that this model remains evergreen and relevant to the plant as built at that point in time. And as David showed,
yeah.
we can, oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
Oh, I'm sorry, Orman. Yeah, you know what, and I think in addition to that, and certainly the model management of change feature is absolutely unique and really powerful in this environment. But another thing that I think truly not just separates us is you know, the INOVX technology was designed and built for operations and maintenance. And those workspaces that I showed you and the knowledge books, these are things that were expressly built into the underlying architecture in a way that just doesn't exist in other systems. And so because I log in as an inspector, you know, I see the model the way my world is for me. I see circuits, loops. If I log in as a maintenance manager, you know, I see areas and I see work packages and I see the model how I'm used to seeing it. And so with very little training, users can easily and intuitively navigate the model. Of course, I think the list is pretty extensive, but I think those hit some good ones. Orman, I think we're going to have to call it quits here. For anybody that wants to stay on, maybe we can just get to one more quickly, but we'll probably bring this to a close.
Yeah. Thank you, Orman. Thank you, Dave. And we are about to wrap up here. We've come to an end of our webinar, and we again want to thank you for your time and for your interest. And we want to thank Randy and Jason from CHS for supporting this webinar. We also want to make you aware that we recorded this session, so should you want a copy or you need a link to the recording, please let me know. My contact information is on the screen. And with that, this webinar is now concluded and you may disconnect. Thank you again.